It is widely known that close trade and cultural contacts existed between Indians and Armenians in the Middle Ages. But there are few who know that the depth of their historical connection extends back much earlier. Evidence reveals that as early as the 1st century AD, Indians had already established a colony of their own within the borders of the ancient state of Armenia. During that period, Armenia was a big and mighty power in anterior Asia, maintaining close relations not only with neighboring Parthia and the Roman Empire, but also with India and China. To foster these relationships, Armenian kings strategically built new cities along the vital trade routes traversing Armenia, connecting Parthia and Bactria to the prosperous regions of India and China. Prominent among these foundations were the cities of Artashat and Tigrano-Akut, which soon evolved into big Armenian trading centers. This period witnessed a significant influx of migrants to Armenia, including a considerable number of individuals from India. Xenophon, the Greek historian, mentions in his writings that as early as the 6th century BC, Armenians and the neighboring Chaldeans frequently journeyed to India and even enlisted in the armies of Indian kings. A work called The Tour of Pontus Euxinus says that the people of India and Bactria used to come to the city of Fazis, situated on the territory of what is now the Georgian SSR. Our knowledge of this historical connection comes from Zenob, a Syrian native of Clark. He was a companion of Saint Gregory, the Illuminator, during an idol-smashing expedition to spread Christianity through Armenia around 304 AD. Zenob has documented the details of this campaign in a book titled History of Tehran, and in it he gives a lively account of the Illuminators' little war with the Indian idolaters of Tehran, also shedding light on their distant origins in India. Zenob's story goes like this. Two Indian chiefs, Gisane and Dimitra, apparently dissatisfied with the administration of a foreign ruler named King Dinaski, tried to engineer a plot against him and raised a rebellion. But the ruler came to know of this and sent his troops against the rebels, with orders to kill the conspirators or expel them from the country. The princes, together with their clan, were forced to leave their homeland. After long westward wanderings, they reached Armenia, where they were hospitably received by King Valarshak, the first Arsacid monarch of Armenia, who ruled the country at that time. This is the period when the Sakas were invading and Greek princelings harrying Kabul, the northwestern Punjab, and the Indus Valley. It is plausible that these Indians fled these troubles, akin to the later flight of the Mamikonians from China. Scholars have attempted to deduce the identity of Dinashki through philology. They propose that the suffix "ki," frequently employed in naming territories or tribes, suggests that Dinashki might denote not only the name of a king, but potentially the ruler of a tribe with a somewhat similar name. The king Valarshak granted the settlers from India the canton of Tehran for their residence, and they founded the town of Vishap there. Researchers believe that this nomenclature of their city hints at their association with snake worship, a practice prevalent in the Punjab, Kashmir, and the Indus Valley. Based on this information, there is speculation that the Indians who migrated to Armenia were likely natives of central India and possibly from the southern part of the Indus Valley. The area of Tehran roughly corresponds to the Mush province of modern Turkey. It is a district of hills and plains on the upper Euphrates, lying westward of Lake Van. It was half Syrian in character and bordered the territory later inhabited by the Mamikonians, a renowned family that originated in China and sought refuge in Armenia during the early part of the 3rd century AD. After coming to Armenia, Indians continued to worship their old deities, which retained the same names as in the home country. To continue their religious practices, the idols of their deities were installed in the neighboring town of Ashtishat, which served as Armenia's religious center. Zeno provides intriguing details of these ancient Indians in Armenia. He writes that they had a dark complexion and distinctive long hair, a feature deemed sacred among them. Some researchers believe that these Indians were an aboriginal tribe. Gisane, one of their main gods, was represented with long hair, a trait adopted by his followers. Researchers have sought to explore the Indian association of the names Dimitra and Gisane through philological analysis. Dimitra and Gisane were names shared by both deities and humans. Dimitra could be a combination involving Mitra, potentially Devamitra, but there is a lack of specific information available about Dimitra. A researcher has proposed that Gisane could possibly be identified with Krishna. While the standard Prakrit and Pali form is Kana, it is acknowledged that Kisina is a likely alteration, appearing in names such as Kesin and Kisin. Krishna was identified with Dionysus by the Greeks. A passage in Arraenes Indica attempts to establish a connection between Gisane and Krishna. Arrian, quoting Megasthenes, says that Dionysus instructed the Indians to let their hair grow long in honor of the god. Therefore, Dionysus is Gisane and Gisane must be Krishna. Further, Krishna's hair was braided. Both Kisane and these Indians had long, and as one historian named Avdal puts it, braided hair which they considered sacred and a special mark. The Rajputs are the only clans of northern India who have always celebrated long hair, considering it sacred. The Tamils wear long hair, so did certain ascetics, and the Sikhs do the same. Similarly, the Sikhs, primarily of Jat origin and influenced by the Rajputs, maintain the tradition of wearing long hair. Researchers suggest a strong likelihood that the Armenian Indians originated from the same aboriginal stock that later gave rise to many Western Rajput clans. 15 years after their arrival in Armenia, both the Indian chiefs died. An Armenian king, Valarshak, divided the lands granted to them among their three sons, Kuar, Mates, and Horian. Scholars employing philology assert that Kuar is likely the Prakrit Kuar, equivalent to the Sanskrit and Pali term Kumara, denoting a young prince. Additionally, it is proposed that Make may derive from the Sanskrit term Mahat, meaning great. Notably, Kuar and Mahato continue to be honorific titles in regular usage. The sons founded 3 villages which were named after them. They also constructed 2 temples dedicated to their gods, Gisane and Dimitra, on Kharke, a grassy hill with woods and springs overlooking the Euphrates. These temples held special significance, serving as a sacred seat and the central gathering place for the clan. The descendants of Kuar, Mates, and Horian were the priests of the idols at the temples, and 12 villages were assigned for the maintenance of the temple service. The Indian colony in Tehran, with its customs and social structure, existed for several centuries. We hear nothing more of these Indians until Saint Gregory appeared in Tehran with 300 men to overturn their faith. However, the inhabitants of Tehran did not want to relinquish the faith of their ancestors. The local population swiftly responded, leading to a conflict that forced Saint Gregory to seek refuge in a friendly castle. Both sides received reinforcements, desperate battles were fought, and over 1,000 men fell. Artisan, the chief priest, and his son Dimitra displayed heroic courage but were ultimately defeated in combat. After gaining victory over the Indians, Gregory ordered that the ancient temples of Tehran be destroyed along with their images of gods. Despite being overpowered, the Indians implored that their idols might be spared. 6 priests fell at the temple door, another died under torture without revealing the treasury of Dimitra. The Christians then proceeded to break up the copper statues of the gods, which were 12 and 15 cubits high. The temples were razed to the ground, and on the site of Dimitri's temple, Saint Gregory erected a church. More than 5,000 idolaters submitted to baptism, while 438 individuals, including the sons of priests and temple servants, who remained defiant, had their heads shaved and were transported to Fatakaran, situated on the territory of contemporary Azerbaijan near the shores of the Caspian. Zenob mentions that even after their conversion to Christianity, the Indians continued to secretly adhere to the religious beliefs of their forefathers. For instance, they made their children wear long hair, as was the custom of their ancestors. The priests were of the lineage of the chiefs. They had largely abandoned their native speech since they used proper names like artisan, but their physical features were markedly different from their neighboring communities. Despite their chiefs establishing connections, likely through marriage, with the neighboring chief of Hashtiyank, the Indians remained a distinct people. Although this westward migration of these Indians cannot have been the first of its kind, it is the earliest we know of. Such migrations by Indians have been comparatively rare. On the whole, we have to thank Zenob for having preserved an interesting little bit of history.